We have all been thinking about what should be in the next Armored Core game at some point, especially since we are still waiting in what might be another 10-year cycle for a new game. I'll let you process that for a second. But hey, on the bright side, by the time this video is being recorded, that means there should be 7 more years to go. So, yay? But in the meantime, I'll be talking about the things that we need to see in whatever the next title may be, not necessarily just relating to Armored Core 6's successor, but in future Armored Core sequels altogether. These vary from some of the most requested features to what I also personally think should be added, since I have seen what the entire Armored Core series has to offer, at least so far. Starting off with the most heavily requested addition, co-op. From Software's goal with AC6's campaign was to make it feel like a lone wolf experience. So I understand its exclusion, but at the same time, there's literally missions in the game where you are accompanied by other pilots. Before anyone says just use the co-op mod, not everyone plays Armored Core on PC. While the mods are impressive and even From has taken notice of them, features like this need to be implemented in an official capacity for everyone to enjoy, regardless of platform. Also, co-op has been a feature in some of the previous games, so its return wouldn't necessarily be a surprise, yet it would still be a very welcome addition. Funny enough, there are still some players who are opposed to the idea. Someone shared a Reddit thread with me that was discussing how online co-op would be a fun inclusion for people to enjoy the game with their friends, or an avenue to make friends with fellow Ravens. The overwhelming majority agreed that co-op has a lot to offer in the world of Armored Core. Yet the naysayers didn't have a single good reason to support their stance. One person even went out of their way to ask each of them why, and the responses varied from "I don't want it" to "because." My favorite one was "it's not a live service game." You know, this generation of gamers has a rough when they associate a mode that enhances replayability, which has been around since the beginning of the gaming industry in practically every genre, to a single model that focuses on monetization. Then again, some players were legitimately surprised when they realized this game's customization was entirely free and didn't cost money like in Fortnite. Let that one sink in. Anyway, playing devil's advocate for a moment, the one possible reason I can think of to be opposed to co-op is how it would potentially trivialize the game's difficulty. However, they can easily scale the difficulty of missions and bosses like they did in Elden Ring, so it provides an extra layer of challenge as opposed to making things easier. They can even make co-op separate from the campaign with its own unique missions, bosses, etc. Either way, I think the inclusion of co-op only makes sense and would be an enjoyable experience for friends that want to group up to take on what the game has in store for them and share the Armored Core experience together. Now this one seems like a given, and it probably is. We all want new parts. It is a staple of the series, and one that was changed up a bit when From Software introduced a few new parts in Armored Core 6 via a free update. But I strongly believe there are 2 types of parts in particular that absolutely need to be added or technically re-added. Custom parts variants like the Jailbreak being a damaged version of the Basho frame, or the Shade Eye's custom appearance to the Finder Eye, were also introduced in Armored Core 6, and it shows that having more control over aesthetics to existing parts is quite possible. Adding more of these would be a great way to allow for extra creative expression to the game. In fact, if they wanted to take it a step further, From Software can reintroduce the stabilizer mechanic from the 4th generation games, which, if you don't know, were extra parts you could add to different sections of your AC that also impact the movement of your build. They don't necessarily have to bring back the movement aspect, but the fact that you could equip something like a V-fin to your AC's head or spikes to the back of your core allowed for a lot more visual distinction between builds. And it would certainly make looking at the same dual Zimmerman builds over and over again less boring. Either way, custom parts or a separate category that doesn't necessarily impact your build's performance would only make spending time in the garage even better. Also, the reintroduction of shoulder extensions. These parts essentially support your AC's arsenal. As their name suggests, they are equipped to your AC shoulders and can provide deterrents like flares to counter missiles, or even missile pods to reinforce your existing ones. These are so impactful that even today I am shocked by their absence in Armored Core 6, especially when I noticed most of the arms in the game have literal ports for them. You might be going, well, it's probably just a design choice, but their placement suggests otherwise. Might sound like a tinfoil hat theory, but I'm convinced that they had plans to include extensions in the future, or they didn't want to overwhelm the player with another parts category that they have to worry about. Crossplay can be a touchy subject depending on who you ask. It's tricky because this is one of the most heavily requested features as well, but it requires more hoops to jump through and several parties to get involved in order for it to see the light of day. But if it means keeping the Armored Core community connected and extending the lifespan of these games, I'm all for it. Platforms like Xbox certainly wouldn't mind. Too soon? I don't think it's too soon. Y'all make it sound like it's a ghost town over there. I read the comments. But it would have to be done properly, because from what I've heard at least, most of the concerns stem from the PC side, where cheating can get even crazier than the other ports of the game, and the gameplay differences between mouse and keyboard and controller could also be impactful. As long as crossplay is implemented in a way that doesn't hurt the player experience, it should be included. It's something that everyone playing AC can benefit from, especially in the long run. Even if it's only an optional setting, I would rather have it there in some shape or form than not at all. Parts tuning, not to be confused with OS tuning in AC6, is an older feature that was very popular in earlier Armored Core titles. This setting directly impacts how you can customize your AC in a way that ultimately caters to your personal playstyle, helping increase the amount of options available as well. For example, if you are using a lightweight build and you really like a certain leg option but it doesn't have enough load capacity to fit a certain part, you can increase this stat to make that original concept feasible. Tuning has always been a big part of customization that players enjoyed in the past because it provided an extra layer of depth. However, newcomers that came to the series via Armored Core 6 might find it overwhelming, but I have a feeling From would be able to bring back tuning in a way that is simplified enough for new players to easily understand it, and for veterans to rejoice in its return. Personally, I don't think this feature should have ever been removed, but like extension parts, I strongly believe From Software's priority was to avoid confusing new players in Armored Core 6, because, let's face it, this was the first Armored Core game in a long time, and you want to leave a good impression. In case you're worried that tuning stats that are inherently strong would make certain builds broken, they did a good job with handling diminishing returns to keep things balanced in the past. Even though tuning sounds simple at first, there's an added complexity to it that makes you really dive deeper into optimizing your builds and finding out which stats will truly change the feel of the AC that you're building. Now onto the online side of things. I could make a whole video talking about some ways to improve Armored Core's PvP. Oh wait, I did. So instead, I'll just talk about two key factors that directly impact the fun factor for literally everybody. First and foremost is the netcode. This seriously needs to be improved in the future. It's never been From Software's forte, but given their multiplayer focus on games Like Elden Ring Night Rain, it's an indicator that they're aware and wanting to do better. Because if there is one thing that could seriously destroy the mood of an epic match, it's seeing your AC dodge a laser beam only to still be vaporized, or when a grenade launcher looks like it makes contact with your opponent, only for the attack to have no effect. We've all been there. While AC6's netcode is an improvement from past entries, trust me, I've played Armored Core for Answer competitively, so while I've seen worse, it's still far from perfect. It's way more valuable to acknowledge a game's shortcomings through constructive criticism that'll hopefully lead to a solution, as opposed to preaching everything is flawless and everyone criticizing the game is attacking it because you disagree with them. Those people are out there. The other major improvement for multiplayer would be more modes. Armored Core 6's options are limited to 1v1 or 3v3s. Don't ask me why 2v2 isn't a thing or even free-for-all, because I don't know. Nobody does. But more importantly, modes that are objective-based, like, all the missions that teach you how to play the game. Wait, I hear in the distance, Armored Core has always been a single-player game. Yes and no. This sentiment ignores the existence of titles like Ninebreaker, Formula Front, or even the Gen 5 games, which all leaned into the multiplayer. And it's always been a part of the series, either locally or online. And during the Gen 5 marketing campaign, if you could even call it that, there was a trailer devoted to the multiplayer. And if you don't think that's a big deal, you should know that marketing for Armored Core was so little, it was practically non-existent, especially outside of Japan. Yet they dedicated an entire trailer to talk about the multiplayer features. They didn't have the Armored Core 6 marketing approach involving several promotions, including trailers featuring Carl Urban and even Dwight from The Office. Is it any wonder AC6 outsold the entire series? So yeah, fixing the netcode and including multiplayer modes that offer more than just versus could make for one of the most enjoyable and replayable Armored Core games ever made. We all like new gameplay mechanics, right? Well, usually. They offer something different to the table that keeps the gameplay engaging. One of my personal favorites was destructible parts. Something they always teased in intros, and we finally got back in Armored Core Last Raven. Now, I'm not saying we need this feature specifically, but I'm not saying we don't need it either. Picture yourself in a mission. You've built your AC for it. Everything is going well, and suddenly, BAM! An arm gets destroyed. You begin to doubt yourself because you lost a crucial piece to achieve mission success. But you've come too far, and the only path now is forward. Next thing you know, you confront the final enemy. You're at a huge disadvantage, but after an intense showdown, you've done it. Eliminated the last targets without that key component, thanks to your adaptability and determination as a Raven. This was an actual scenario that I had to go through in Last Raven, and the rewarding sensation at the end was like no other in the series. That's the feeling new gameplay mechanics can provide to Armored Core players. Chances are that hearing that story probably gave you one of two reactions. You're either excited, maybe too excited about that thrill because you're basically V1 Freud, but you're mentally prepared for the challenge, or you are going through a panic attack, in which case I recommend pausing the video to take deep breaths. We good? Okay. Again, this doesn't have to be the exact mechanic they need to implement, but it's one of the few that felt super rewarding to players. New ones like it can really enhance the gameplay cycle. If there's a brand new feature that I wish they would take into consideration, it is the idea of transformations being an option for ACs, because for the longest time, enemies had access to it, bosses as well. Even in Armored Core 6, Lammergeier legs aren't exactly the full package, but it's close, and I feel like it's long overdue. If the War for Cybertron games could pull it off with custom transformers, From can do the same for Armored Cores. But what do you think? Let me know, what is something that the next Armored Core game absolutely needs? If you enjoyed this, please be sure to like the video, hype it if you can, leave a comment, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And until next time, take care.